I am going to talk to you today about my experience with the Leica ScanStation C10. We have been a user since December of 2010, and there's a variety of things that I think are pretty critical that I convey to you about our experience with that, so we will get started. Just to let you know, that image that you're seeing on the screen there, that is actually our crime lab, the new crime lab that opened in April of 2012 here in Johnson County, Kansas. Here in Johnson County, I do supervise the crime scene section. I am the supervisor of a total of 7 CSIs. We actually only have 6 working right now. But all of our CSI team is a part of our crime scene mapping team as well, and we also have one of our digital media specialists that participates in the program with us. This is the crime scene that basically started things off for us. In April of 2010, we had received a loaner C10, Leica C10 ScanStation from Leica to demo over the course of a few days. And we were, well, I don't like to use the term, but we were fortunate enough to have a major scene. We had a homicide that weekend. We typically do between 5 to 10 homicides a year here in Johnson County, and with that, you know, we want to be able to map those scenes. We also use this at officer-involved shootings and other major scenes, and I'll talk about that in a little bit. But at this particular scene, we had the scanner that we could shoot some test data. Now, what you're seeing on the screen right now is the total station map that was created. It was shot with a total of 3 people, and it took over the course of 10 hours. We had received the C10 several days prior, and basically, with just about 30-45 minutes of training over the phone, we had established a very basic working method for the C10, and we were able to create some pretty neat product with it. And this is what we created, and Shane, if you can bring that video over, this is what we created with just a few hours on site with very, very limited instruction on how to use the device. And what's so critical about, you know, looking at this is not necessarily how easy we came to use the C10, and if you could make that a little bit bigger, there you go. But more so for the purposes of going to the decision makers in our county, we actually had real case data that we could use to show them, hey, here's what you get with the total station, and here's what you get with the laser scan data that the C10 can provide. There is no color data on this this fly-through, as they're called, because we actually didn't operate the camera for the scans. We only collected scan data while we were there. And ultimately, we are an ASCLD accredited laboratory. Our crime scene section is accredited under that accreditation. And this data was collected in conjunction with the total station data because this was not an approved method for us. This was shot secondary to using one of our approved methods for data collection. Thanks, Shane. You can take that off screen. There we go. And this is a ground level view of what some of that scan data looks like. Each of those triangles is something called a scan world. It's the position of the scanner when we collected data. And for the fly-through that you just saw, we kind of moved through the scene. We collected 3 scan sites on scene, and then the 2 triangles that you see on the vehicle were later collected at the lab. We used the base stand that the scanner has and tried to get some data from inside the truck. I don't know that we would do that again now being educated users of the C10, but we were very happy with the scan data that we collected from the ground level. You know, this is a device in which from any of the points that are collected and captured, you can collect a measurement from and to any point collected. You can get the angle measurement from or to any point that is collected elsewhere in that scene. So ultimately, we're collecting millions of measurement points at any site. And this is what the equipment looks like. The photograph on your left is the actual C10, the scanner on the tripod. There's a tripod stabilizer underneath it, that red bracket that you see. Just to the right of the scanner on the tripod, you can see a tripod dolly. This is a very convenient tool for moving the scanner around a scene when you're dealing with smooth or paved areas. On the right, you see 2 targets on a pole, and just below that, you see the twin target pole, which is used for one as a target so we can register scans at scenes, but also as a quality check that we will perform at crime scenes. And I'll get in into that a little bit more here in a little bit. One thing I do want to point out about the scanner that you can see on the tripod is the fact that there is a screen on there. The C10 in particular does not require a laptop to run. The computer is on board, so you are good to go using all of your computer functions right there on the scanner. It makes it very, very convenient not having to connect a laptop or any external computer hardware. The C10, we've had ours now since December of 2010. The C10 is also referred to as the PS10, which is a designation by Leica. They also have the PS5 and the PS20, where PS stands for their public safety line. The PS5 is an answer for agencies that are looking for something with a little less muscle than the C10 carries. It's a little bit under $100,000 for the PS5. The PS10 is greater than $100,000, and I'm not sure what the price point is on the PS20. We've not looked at that yet, although I know moving forward I do have a personal strong interest in laser scanning, and I am going to look to that in the future to see what we can do to upgrade our operation, and the PS20 will be something that I'm looking at when we go to do that. Basically, the scanner uses a rotating mirror to send out a laser, obtaining millions of measurements within a given area. The result is a point cloud, and you ultimately end up with millions of points collected from each spot. Each scan that's collected on site can be registered together. Each of these scans are called scan worlds, and they can be registered together into one giant registered cloud. There is a camera on board. The onboard camera captures in a full scan of a site, a 360-degree scan of a site. It captures 260 images, which come out as a honeycomb. And I included this photo because you can still see the honeycomb in the image, the top image that I'm showing. And that honeycomb can actually be taken out of the image by blending your image to smooth the image where those honeycombs basically disappear, and the image becomes a much better composed image. I know that some of the camera upgrades that are coming down the line, I think the PS20 has a white balance function, so you can actually do more with that onboard camera. Leica does have an external camera option that still has some bugs. We're working with ours to try and figure out some different things that we can improve our nighttime capture. There is the Nodal Ninja, which was mentioned earlier, as a third-party solution for capturing panoramic images that can be texture mapped onto your scans. Basically, if you look at the bottom two photos, you see, again, that's our crime lab, and you can see the intensity map, that rainbow color of points. That is actually the point cloud that was captured by the scanner when we scanned our crime lab. Just to the right and below that is the scanner, the image, the point cloud with the colors appropriately texture mapped on from the onboard camera. So using the camera is a really powerful tool in getting appropriate looking colored points in your scan data. Again, with nighttime images, there is some issues with low light photography. We're working on it with the external camera. However, the benefit of the Leica C10 is that regardless of the lighting conditions, it's capturing measurements. So even if we didn't capture photographs at all, we would still have the point cloud image with all of the points that are measurable, and we would be able to represent that space as an intensity map like you're seeing here, or in a grayscale image as you saw on the fly-through from that homicide scene. Basically, as I mentioned earlier, the power of the point cloud is that you can measure the distance between and the angle of travel between any 2 points in the entire point cloud set. It's basically giving you the ability to do this by measuring all the points relative to itself. So then using trigonometric functions, applying algorithms, and all that fancy stuff that goes on within the software, you can choose any 2 points and measure within them. There are 3 field of view options whenever you're scanning. A target all will go 360 degrees around, and depending on your resolution, that is going to be your most lengthy option. We can also do a quick scan where we only scan a slice of a crime scene. If we're doing just a vehicle per se, like you're seeing here, we might just do a quick scan to capture the vehicle only from the perspective of the scanner. What this does is it basically allows us to speed the scanning process up. We can also do a scan window where we select just a small window of space within the viewer that the scanner is presenting us and scan only that area. One of the benefits of having that onboard camera is when you're choosing the areas that you're going to scan, you're actually viewing live video that's presented to you through that camera. Resolution is essentially point spacing when we talk about resolution, and how much space exists between the points in the scan data that you're collecting. At the lowest resolution, the scanner is going to collect 3.7 million points in under 2 minutes in a target all scan. But most scans that we're collecting are captured in medium resolution, which is approximately 10 million points in a target all scan. Evidence and key items, though, can be scanned at higher resolution, so you have better spacing and a more solid view of those objects within your point cloud. The highest preset resolution is 370 million data points measured in a target all, but you can actually go in and set custom resolutions that are higher than that, so within a very small window you can capture a extremely high resolution capture with the scan of the points. The timing of a single scan capture is roughly 6 minutes for the target all of a medium resolution scan, approximately 8 minutes for capturing all images, all 260 images in that honeycomb, and then 5 to 10 minutes for selecting and scanning your targets. Now, the targets that you select and scan within each scan world are used later to register the scans to one another. There are other options for that, where you can do a cloud-to-cloud registration, where you choose points in each scan and look at those points in other scans and tell the software, hey, these are the same points, and register the scans together by going in and manually choosing targets. So roughly we're looking at 20 to 25 minutes per setup, depending on exactly what you're doing. You know, not every scan is going to require medium resolution. If you're doing a close quarters scan, a lot of the time low resolution will actually suffice, and you can do a higher resolution scan of just your evidence items. It is all dictated by the situation, and truly every situation is different. The range of the scanner is 300 meters at 90% reflectance. Basically, when we're talking about reflectance, we're talking, the higher the number, we're talking about things like stop signs and street signs where they reflect light much better. But typically, we get a good solid range of 134 meters at 18% reflectance, and that's 439 feet. I truly do not realize losing points because we're too far away. 439 feet is a huge distance, and we're using the scanner at much closer range than that, so this really isn't an issue that becomes anything that we're tracking. We recently did a scan where we covered just over a mile in 23 scans with just targets collected in the middle few scans, so we can register all of them together. It was quite an interesting project, but the distance was of no concern. We were able to move that scanner along that distance quite easily. Scanner placement at your scene is based on your scanner settings. Like I said, you want to be close enough that you're getting the points you are going to expect, but also on line of sight. If the laser can't see it, it's not measuring it. So this very well may demand multiple scans for a full capture of a site. You may end up with voids or shadows in your scans, and you have to figure out what you're going to accept. If you look at the top photo, you can see where that target is just above and left of the scan position, and that circle in the middle of that photo is the scan position. The scanner cannot see below itself. That's always a void that you're going to have within your scan. So beyond that target, the scanner couldn't see, so you have a shadow there. There are instances when I know the data that I'm collecting will be scrutinized, and I'll maybe collect an extra scan or two so that I eliminate those shadows. There are some things that we had to learn about the scanner itself as we were going through. There is that void when you're on the floor scan. The void from the center of the laser out is roughly 1 foot and 2 inches. On the lowest tripod setting, which puts the laser height at 4'1", the void roughly falls out about 4'1", and again at the highest tripod setting, where the laser's at 6'5", it's going to fall out at about 6'4½". So basically, if you were to just fold the scanner down to the ground, whatever the height of the scanner is, you're going to have a void underneath the scanner where you're going to go to a secondary position and scan back and capture that void. We had a crime scene where a fellow had passed away. He was a hoarder, and the only move we could make within his apartment because of the cluttered nature was in the vertical. So we captured a scan from the floor, we captured one from the lowest tripod setting and one from the highest, and we were able to create a very good representation of that space. It also leads to tactical scanning. In the top photo that you're seeing, I captured a total of 7 scans, but only 4 of them were full 360-degree scans. The other 3 were tactical scans where I was backfilling shadowed areas so that I knew that my product would be something that folks wouldn't be like, well, why can't you see any points here? I just went ahead and did the data capture so I didn't have to face those questions, and I could focus on the important things like the measurability of the data that was collected. You see that table stand on the photo below. That is actually used at a crime scene where we really didn't have a good place to set up the tripod, so we used the table stand in all instances and was able to set that on a variety of surfaces throughout the site. I also included the photo in there of the iPad because you can use something called a windy Wi-Fi to connect via iPad, so you have the computer screen on the side of the scanner remotely projected to the iPad, and you control it directly from the iPad. I mentioned earlier about our staff. We have a total of 8 people trained in using the Leica C10. We have 5 that are pretty solid in the computer work. There is a bit of a steeper learning curve for the Cyclone software suite. It's much easier to teach someone how to scan at a scene than it is to use the Cyclone program. That is a longer process getting folks comfortable in that environment. But on-site, with step-by-step procedure in hand, or once the material is learned, scanning is a very simple process. It is a computer-driven process once you get back to the lab. Everybody that we have is able to capture, upload, and protect their data set, and then, like I said, we have a smaller group of folks that are very comfortable about going in and really working that data over. In part, that's because much of our staff actually wasn't present when we received our training in 2010 and 2011, and we're actually getting ready to hold a training session here with our folks and potentially some other area agencies that are using the C10 to build on some basic skills for folks that didn't have that original training. We also very extensively have used the help file and Leica support staff who had been fantastic all along our ownership of the C10. These are the numbers for scenes that we've scanned through the years. 43 in 2011. We were scanning a little bit more heavy-handed. We would have something that appeared to be a natural death or something that appeared to be an accidental death, and we would go out and work it with the precautions that we do any death scene. And even though there was no smoking gun or knife in the back, we would still scan those sites. So we ended up with a few extra scans that year, and we're at 34 for this year. You have to have IT buy-in for this. You need the support of computer folks because you are going to end up, depending on how many scans you're capturing a year, with a fairly large volume of scan data. Here are some examples of file sizes that we've ended up with the scans that we've collected on site, and I think that that's a good reference, so you can kind of say, hey, if I go out and collect 15 scan worlds, medium resolution with images, I'm looking at about 16 gigabytes of data. The primary types of output are TrueView, snapshots, fly-through animation, and nothing. I'll talk about nothing first because, well, it's nothing. If a case is determined to be non-criminal, if you go out and scan a death scene and it's ruled an accidental, it's ruled a natural, and it's determined that no scene work is needed from that scan data, well, you just upload it and tuck it away, and if it's ever needed in the future for any reason, you have it. But generally speaking, you have no work that needs to happen at the office. The fly-through animations, you've already seen one of them. We'll have a few more as we go on here, but that's basically creating an animation moving through space, not time. It is not a recreation of any event. There are folks that take scan data and will create recreations, but what we are presenting is a trip through that space. What I want to show you is the TrueView, which is our primary means of communicating scan data to investigators. Now what we're looking at here is a site map. It's a top-down view, slightly from an angle of a crime scene where I had collected 3 scans. Those 3 scan worlds are represented in the TrueView by a triangle. That triangle can be double-clicked and it takes the investigator into the panoramic image that was captured by the scanner overlaid with the points. So basically we're looking at a photo and points overlaid with one another, giving not only the ability to navigate the panoramic image that was captured, but also to choose any points within that area and click 2 points and getting a measurement between them. So it is a very powerful tool that we can give investigators very shortly after leaving a scene so that they can navigate that crime scene. I like to give perspective to my sitemaps by integrating GIS maps and photos with the scan data I've collected. Truthfully, if you're just looking from the top down at scan data, it might be hard to orientate yourself to where you are. So what I will do is include a photograph that was captured from our GIS, our Geographic Information System, and give a street or a building or something that can reference the position of that data. Snapshots are one of the other types of outputs, and that's basically just a static shot, a static photo of the point cloud data from any perspective. So this is, again, an overhead view showing the position of the data set within a GIS photo. And then in this particular instance, there was really no forensic information that could be provided for this case. There were two people in a fight. No one was disputing that they were in a fight with each other. They ended up rolling down a hill, and one of them was killed in the process of rolling down this hill in a fight. You know, ultimately, the legality of how to charge something like this is left to the prosecutors. But if I were to fingerprint the inside of the vehicle that they had started this fight in, it's not going to tell me anything because everyone's in consensus. Everyone that is involved was in the vehicle, you know, looking at blood stains on their clothing. May or may not be relevant, but all I could do in this instance was provide a snapshot showing the distance that they traveled down the hill and the total elevation change. Really looking at the scan data and looking at everything that we had forensically, this was the best that I could do for this particular case. In general, ensuring success for us meant generating excitement. We needed to have fun to conquer fears of this equipment, and we actually went out and scanned some really neat sites with our scanner when we first got it. We went out to the Kansas City Liberty Memorial. It's the premier World War I memorial in the country. If you ever get out this way, I recommend checking it out. It's a phenomenal place to visit, and we went out and scanned that site. Really amazing and compelling data, and putting it together was fun because we all enjoyed that as a monument of our region. We also went out and scanned Union Station, which essentially was an exercise in crime scene reconstruction because of the Union Station massacre that occurred on June 17, 1933, where 4 law enforcement officers and Jelly Nash, a mobster, was killed in an ambush at Union Station. Shane, can you bring that video in, please? We captured the data that you're going to see here probably 3 months after we obtained our scanner. We were still not validated with this for scene use. We were capturing data on scene, but we were still using our validated methods. But this was one of the first times that we really put something together where we were like, you know, this has the amazing potential for presentation in courtrooms and moving around crime scenes and really having a unique perspective on what you're looking at. In this particular instance, this video was created after capturing 5 positions at Union Station. We kind of just flew through the wall there, and as we fly through this area, you'll see squiggly lines. Squiggly lines are people walking in front of the scanner. They can very easily be turned off. You can turn those points off so the noise is eliminated from your scan data. And if we ever do that to take out a car that is driven through a crime scene while we were scanning, or a person that walked in front of the scanner, we maintain a very pristine copy of our original scan data, and then our output may be cleaned up to reduce the noise that is presented when we are actually creating exhibits.
Fantastic demo.
We're about objectivity. We're a crime lab. We're ASCLD accredited, and you know, objectivity as a process is something that's being studied by crime labs and forensic responders around the country. We met with prosecutors and district attorneys to make sure there would be buy-in on this. We needed to be sure that what we were capturing would have value in court, and thus far it has. You know, we've used this in court 3 separate times, and recently here in September there was a federal Daubert hearing in Albuquerque over the use of Leica scan data in court, and it was a success for the use of the scanner in court. The 3 times that we have used it, we have not been questioned at all. It's just been admitted as measurement data that was collected on scene, and when people really, they look at me and they're like, how can you explain what this thing is doing? And I say, you know what, basically, it's a very complex tape measure, and I know that that sounds bad to put it that way, but it is something that's collecting measurement data. It's a very complex protractor, or theodolite for those from the total station world. It's collecting angles and measurements that are used in conjunction as a very complex instrument in collecting these, and as long as we're following through with quality assurance and quality control showing that those measurements are sound, it really is just a measurement tool. With accreditation comes great responsibility. I'm a movie fan, so I drew a little bit from Spider-Man, if you would, to come up with that one, but it's the truth. Establishing protocols and procedures for use, it allows for standardization, and it's going to prevent problems when you're looking at all of your individual users within an agency. You want to have protocols, and as a side note, we are happy to share our protocols. We are happy to share the processes that we went through in validation. These are things that we're very happy to share as an accredited laboratory, and we enjoy working with other labs, because whenever we engage other labs that are using this technology, we learn from them as they learn from us. The other thing that's come about recently is that, as crime scene investigators that are certified through the IAI, the Leica training program is approved for IAI certification training hours. So that's something that can help us maintain our certification, which all comes full circle to the accreditation issues that we face as laboratories. So in the validation, we basically went out and set measurements out that we had known measurements, and we recorded the distances and basically did a very lengthy collection of data and was able to crunch down the numbers, creating something that was a very thorough validation of this device. One of the things that our quality manager does love is the fact that Leica has available a NIST certified twin target pole. It's a NIST traceable artifact, and that twin target pole from target to target is 1.700 meters as it's presented by Leica, and NIST actually certifies that device. It has to be calibrated, and it is a NIST traceable artifact. So within each scan, we can go in during the scan process. If you see the photo below my text, that's actually showing an on-site validation of 2 targets collected on scene. So it's a very powerful tool for that. When you look at crime scene reconstruction as a process, this is an actual site that we captured with hand-recorded measurements, and we're asked to map out the scene in the courtroom by laying tape down on the floor. We have come so very far from that process. With the scanner, I'm able to scan a site and look at it from above, cutting walls away, cutting the ceiling away, to get a much clearer perspective of what was there, a 3D perspective of what was there. In this particular instance, there was a young lady seated on the couch, and her sister was laying in the bed. She leaned over with a pistol and shot her sister, who was sitting on the couch. I can show unique perspectives, cutaway views, and really make a compelling presentation of what was located at my scene. My goal is to present an objective representation of the spatial relationships at these crime scenes. Take example here of an officer-involved shooting. We have 2 patrol cars and a vehicle a little bit ahead. The actual vehicle that was involved in the shooting was parked between the front patrol car and the other vehicle. We can show very unique perspectives. The lower photograph is actually showing the view through the patrol car front window. It allows us to move around and really look at the scene from just a variety of perspectives that can give insight to what you're seeing as evidence. This is the true view, where you can see the 3 cartridge casings that have been marked and circled there within the scan. At this particular scene, this was a pretty open area. We actually captured this with 2 scans. We were on site, scanned, and were done within 45 minutes at this scene, so it was a very quick process. There we go, locked up for a second. And again, an overhead view. And we could show the distance very easily from vehicle to vehicle. And what was interesting about this is that the vehicle that had left the scene, that had engaged the officer in the shooting, was later recovered with 3 bullets that had been fired into it. And here are the 3 trajectories that were calculated within that shooting reconstruction. A very powerful and compelling documentation of that process. The intensity mapping view that I talked about earlier can be used to very clearly depict fire scenes. It's actually depicting a measure of reflectance. And when we're looking at a fire scene, something that looks black may be a subtle difference in this black from that black. You basically have something on the grayscale where it's a little bit different here than it is here, but you can't see it with your naked eye. The scanner is actually measuring that reflectance, so you get a much clearer view of damage patterns at fire scenes. Here's a few more examples from a fire scene. The benefit in post-blast and explosion scenes, and we've actually had 3 explosion scenes we've worked. One very recently where we ended up collecting 9 scans at an apartment explosion, and the targets that were placed in those scans were very well placed. We were able to put the scan data together within about 2 hours, and about 4 hours after leaving scene, we had usable fly-through data that we could present to investigators and a usable point cloud that we could navigate quite easily. We are using our scanner also for large scanning projects, homeland security considerations, scanning schools, scanning office buildings. It's something that we've had in the works for some time now. We actually used our laboratory as a pilot for this, where we captured 152 different scan worlds at our laboratory. There were 52 captured outside, and we ended up with 68 gigabytes of total data because at close quarters we scanned at low resolution. Shane, if you would bring that last video in, please. This is a fly around showing our crime laboratory. And there we go. And again, this is 52 scans from outside the building. We did 12 from the roof, so we really had full coverage. You know, this was in part for security. It was in part our building at the time, and still is, one of the most cutting-edge laboratories in the country. Our director you know, uses this when he talks about different facets of the building. We just received the LEED's Platinum Award, and you can see the solar panels on the roof and solar accelerators. So we use this not only for security, but also, like I said, for a bit of show and tell about what our crime lab is. Shane, you can go ahead and pull that off. Oh, we went to full screen there. There we go. You know, it probably bleeds through, but I love working with the laser scanner, and I enjoy making output. It's something that I've taken on as just a personal passion within the field of crime scene investigation. And you know, this has been one of the most earth-shattering things that I've had an opportunity to work with in my years as a crime scene investigator. So I appreciate the time, and I'm willing to take questions.